Welcome back to another episode of CRM Radio Live, the voice of customer relationship management. Brought to you by the good folks at Goldmine CRM. With the man who's he's seen it all. He's been a voice for a long time and continues to be a leading authority in the field, Mr. Paul Petersen. Hey, Paul.
Paul Roberts, thanks. We're at CRM Radio. Today we're talking with Max Fatouretchi, the author of the new book, The Art of CRM. Max comes to us with over 20 years of experience, having been an independent consultant, Microsoft recognized, and now author. So Max, welcome to CRM Radio.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's my pleasure to be here. I started my small company like 20 years ago doing CRM for banks, for financial services in Vienna, in Austria. And then I had 7 years that company, which I sold it to HP, Hewlett-Packard. And then I got an offer from Microsoft to do the international CRM business. Basically, we started from scratch. This was the first real good work.
So Max, in over 20 years of CRM implementation and 200 projects, what do you think has been the largest advancement in your mind for CRM?
Well, that's a great question. Things have changed dramatically, especially in the last few years. So we see with the introduction of artificial intelligence, all this stuff, cognitive services, data lakes, big data, the whole analytics, machine learning, and so on. We bring a lot of more automation in customer relationship management, which is highly appreciated in this domain. In terms of advancement, I would say these are the great advancement in the last few years. I have a few good examples in my book talking about how you manage sales and marketing and service processes by leveraging these newer technologies.
And I think you hit on a key point, which has been that technology has been so closely wed to CRM, where with ERP, for example, it's important, but you don't hear about it as much. But CRM technology really advances when the technology becomes better, right?
Absolutely, I agree, yes. And CRM is really about improving processes, efficiencies in a company. It's really about improving the cost of ownership, the total cost of ownership, the cost of operations, and improving customer satisfaction. And if you look at these three elements in every CRM project, you find out easily that almost every process in a company is related to a CRM compared to ERP processes, which are really a kind of back office and very kind of, I wouldn't say isolated, but they are more on the operation in the back office.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I've been in sales and marketing systems, they weren't called CRM for 20, 30 years. Back then, there was still, you were cost justifying some of the development. Retention of customers or the cost of acquiring a customer, right? And today it's just taken this for granted, not for granted, but it's a given. We must have this, right? You don't have to spend as much time on the ROI. You have to spend time on getting it done. And I think that leads to your book. So your book is called The Art of CRM, kind of an interesting title for a very technical-based subject matter. So how did you choose the title for that book?
That's a good question. So I've been always working with teams across the globe, and each time I was getting into a new project, people were, when we were discussing how to do this and that, people were asking, so could we do this or could we do that? And my default answer was, well, that's the art of possible. So what is possible? We could do that. And that is really what you could imagine in your mind. You could bring it into the CRM implementation. I agree, the total cost of ownership and TCO ROI are not that not that priority for the companies, but I somehow don't agree that they shouldn't be priorities. I think a successful CRM implementation is when you really care about the TCO ROI, because that will open eyes from everyone, stakeholders in the project, to understand the value and also to promote and to support your initiatives to have a better acceptance in the company.
With the industry being so mature, Why did you see a need for this book that focuses very heavily on implementation and the process of implementing CRM? So why this book now, I guess, would be a good way to ask it.
Yeah, that's another excellent question, Paul. And the answer is twofold. Firstly, I've been, as you said, engaged in so many projects, and very often I was delivering workshops and training and so on, and people were asking me again and again, why don't you put all this experience you have in all these projects into a book? And they would buy it. So that was one part, and I was really feeling responsible really to put down everything in a book before it gets lost. Probably I have knowledge most than anybody else on this planet, just because of the very unique position I was in my professional career for the last 20 years. So I've been in Shanghai, helping Shanghai Development Bank, the Podung Development Bank, SPDB, or I've been in Iceland and working with customers, larger customers in Iceland, in Reykjavik. I've been almost all over the place and working with different people, different countries, different projects. That was one part. So I wanted to make sure this is not getting lost forever. And another thing is, as you said at the beginning, a lot of things have changed in the last 2 or 3 years. There is nothing anymore like it was 2, 3 years ago. And by the way, the book is not really that deep technical. It's really covering also the business area and also how to implement a successful CRM. So it's really for both business and technical audience.
And I think one of the main themes of your book were the 3 pillars of CRM. So why don't you talk about that a little bit, because that was the framework of which your book then expounded.
Yes, great. Yeah, that's true. So we have 3 pillars. I used to say, and I've been working with some major software vendors across the globe, and we were always looking at these 3 pillars and see how we could enhance and develop better techniques to deliver a better CRM. So that's operational CRM, that's collaboration CRM, and that's analytical CRM. You really want to use CRM to orchestrate your business. So you want to be able to manage and orchestrate every process in your company, and every process in your company is somehow customer-related process. And to do that, you really have to have these 3 pillars. So you need to have operational CRM, which means you can really collect and manage all interactions with your customer. You have the collaboration CRM. That means you really have also the ability to collaborate both internally and externally with your customers, with your partners, with your employees, and leverage different channels. So if it's internet, if it's telephone, or it's your branch or your shop. And then you need to have the analytical part of the CRM, which is really how to analyze all this data. You collect, you have a central repository of customer operation data, and then you want to analyze it in order to slice and dice the data, or to dice and slice the data, and then get into improving the processes.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We were talking with Max Fatouretchi about the Art of CRM. Back in a moment.
We know you rely on your CRM system, and it's usually a love-hate relationship. Most CRM systems, well, let's face it, they're expensive. They're hard to understand. People don't use them properly. And you're probably paying for features that you don't even want. If that's your case, then maybe it's time to simplify. It's time to get more from your CRM. Why don't you go back to the original? Trust Goldmine. We helped pioneer the industry, after all. Goldmine CRM is, well, it's simple, it's affordable, and it's proven. If all those sound appealing to you, if you're just tired of the CRM headaches that you're getting from trying to implement something that's just too complicated, too expensive, and too much for you to figure out, then why not go back to the original? Visit Goldmine today, goldmine.com.
Matt, the book lays out a great framework for considering the implementation of CRM. But behind the scenes, what do you think are the biggest challenges that companies of any size face in implementing a successful CRM? I'll call it strategy or solution.
Yeah, so the biggest challenges are obviously most companies are not really into CRM business. From the solution and technological standpoint of it. So let's say if I'm a bank, I know how to manage accounts and portfolios and et cetera, how to manage my customer relationship as a human being, but I'm not a specialist in CRM. So that's a big challenge. You need to have really a good experienced CRM person in your company, and also work with experienced CRM experts like you guys to set up your CRM. Then there are other challenges. So there are kind of challenges which are unique to each company, depending on the cultural and operational factors in the company. And then there are some common issues in implementing CRM, user acceptance, and as you said, like cost of ownership, TCO, ROI, and these are the things which you could take care of from the start if you have a good experience with your CRM implementation.
I don't know if there's anything controversial, but any examples of projects where things went wrong that you can share with us?
One which comes to my mind each time I talk about failure in CRM. I was working with a very large bank in Switzerland, and everyone knows this bank, by the way. It's a global bank, and they have operation not only in Switzerland but across the globe, including also in the US. And they have developed a CRM for 7 years. They have spent probably I don't know how much money. I don't want just to talk about that. And they have not been successful. So 7 years, they have done a lot of customization, adoptions, integration. They have gone through several kind of recycling and improving the solution, upgrading the solution. And it didn't work because people didn't use it. So the sales and the marketing and everyone else who was supposed to use the system were not using it. And the reason they were not using it is just because they didn't know what the value of the system to them personally is. So that's why I always say it's important when you start a CRM project, you talk and you understand everyone's view, everyone's stakeholders' view in your CRM. So and everyone has a different view, by the way. If you talk with a business department leader, he has a different expectation from a CRM than his staff in his unit have. And depending on the role and responsibilities, everyone sees the CRM differently. And you have to understand and you have to fulfill and satisfy those views and those needs.
Yeah, and I think in the book you and I had talked previously about user adoption, right? And I still see that as something that is still an issue today, that often management will set it up to accomplish their objective. I want better forecasts, or we want to do something with our customer, but they don't forget that there's a technician or a sales rep or somebody at the other side that has to, even the customer. I recently went to a business that I've done business with for 35 years, and they sent me to a portal to do all my own data entry. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. If you want to work with me, you better take better care of it than pushing that off on me. And I had one other example. We talked about having priorities, and if I can share this example. So we were called into a meeting, a large retailer, and they were looking at spending what would be a couple of $100,000 on some CRM. And based on what they wanted to do was to get discount approvals faster. And I asked the owner, I said, well, do you think it's that slow, or how much money do you want to spend to give away money faster? And he looked at it, and I said, well, you're building this because your team wants to approve discounts, which is giving away money. So they killed the project because they said, a day or so on discount approvals is just fine. It didn't have, wouldn't have had an impact on the company. And so sometimes having those candid discussions about what are you trying to accomplish are hard. We still get questions about technology that I want everything on my phone, all 500,000 parts. How are you going to even display that, right? So there's still the best thing a consultant can do is help ratchet those expectations down a little bit. But the comment about user adoption still is still something we see too here at Goldmine. Do you have any tips for smaller businesses? Because much of what you've done involves some very large organizations, but can we distill that down to some thoughts for a more modest business that's implementing CRM?
Especially in the last few years, and you read every day now and day in an article in the news and here and there where people talk about small businesses or retailers or so on going out of business because of the big tech companies who are just changing the game and so on. So yes, the small and medium-sized businesses, I suggest they need more than ever before to have a CRM system that can provide all these kind of services like you get from Amazon or other places at a very low cost. And so just talking about, for example, artificial intelligence, it's becoming a commodity, and through the democratization of these kind of technologies, also small and medium-sized businesses have access to it. In the book, I have few examples on how some traditional, brick companies, small and medium-sized companies could be able to leverage these kind of things in building new way of dealing with the customers, very successfully competing with big tech companies in the market. It's
a great point. When I started with Goldmine about 20 years ago, Microsoft SQL was not very ubiquitous, and so that was a revolutionary technology, because now you brought these powerful database technologies down to a more modest level. Today, as you point out, artificial intelligence. So if you look at Power BI, for example, is an amazing tool once you get your database mapped out that anybody can use, and then you can start to look at things like activity and forecasts or customer service issues by type of issue that they're reporting, and you can start to analyze the data, and that's where you get the real benefit from CRM. Apart from the customer-facing, things, the internal process of helping your salespeople, your customer service people service the customer and keep track. Max, as part of the Art of CRM, you had said that there were a couple of things that were unique about getting this book published. So can you go into that a little bit? So my publisher, Pact, actually has offices in some countries, and we started really very quickly and easily work together as we were one team sitting in the same room, even though we probably never saw each other. So, and we had a very good collaboration in regard to getting things done. So very often we had a review of a chapter in a matter of a day or two, and a few rounds of feedback very quickly, and closing a chapter quickly. Yeah, so the review process, and it helps you go out with a better product, and you've got peer review, and it also creates a little buzz as you get started. And I think that's how you came to know us. Well, it's been good to talk with you, Max Fatouretchi, and the book is The Art of CRM, and it's available at Amazon. I believe it's available in a hardcover and a Kindle version. And Max, thanks for joining us today on CRM Radio. We appreciate it. And as we like to say during the summer here in Chicago, surf's up. Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. That's my pleasure. And okay. You are a legend, Paul. So you and Goldmine. Yeah. Well, the Goldmine certainly is a legend. I just, as my wife said, I got the Goldmine, she got the shaft. Max, thanks for joining us today on CRM Radio. We appreciate it. And as we like to say during the summer here in Chicago, surf's up.
You've been listening to another episode of CRM Radio Live. Right here on the Funnel Live radio channel for at-work listeners like you.